watching The Late Show with me, Leonardo Foxx. Welcome to our season finale, and we have a very, very special episode. A big welcome to you, Mr. William Shakespeare. Wow. Such a pleasure to have you today as our guest. And I have a quick couple questions regarding your play, Hamlet. So, Mr. Shakespeare, when you wrote the play, how did you envision Hamlet's actions towards Ophelia would look like throughout the play?
Thank you so much for having me on the show. And to answer your question, Leonardo, with Hamlet as a character, the vision was that his own personal desire for revenge against Claudius and his consumption of grief to be a driving force of the way he acted towards Ophelia. The way that Hamlet treats Ophelia throughout the play is meant to be shown as a cynical trait that Hamlet possesses, using Ophelia as a simple tool in his grand plan, which ultimately contributed to her and his own downfall. Despite everything that unfolded, Hamlet in the end still had true feelings, true love for Ophelia. Immediately after discovering her death, he said, "I loved Ophelia. 40,000 brothers could not stand with all their quantity of love. Make up, my son," proof that through it all, he did truly love her.
Proof indeed. He did love her. And I wanted to ask about the famous scene from Hamlet, the nunnery scene. What was the thought process behind that?
Great question. For that nunnery scene, I really wanted it to be up for interpretation. Obviously, Hamlet was being spied on through his conversation with Ophelia. A very common interpretation for the scene is one of Hamlet being completely unaware of Claudius and Polonius spying on his conversation with Ophelia. With this perception of the scene, I think Hamlet's truest feelings can come out. The fact that deep down he did love Ophelia, and it is very easy to understand his seemingly sudden change of heart through the lens of carrying out his plan of revenge and grieving for his father. The second interpretation is the exact opposite, however. That Hamlet had known the entire time that he was being spied on. With this perception of the story, Hamlet seems to be very particular regarding every single word he says. Even the famous line of "get thee to a nunnery" was crafted by Hamlet with the singular goal of trickery to Claudius and Polonius. With all that said, my personal favorite of the interpretations, and perhaps what I initially intended when writing, is where Hamlet switches in the middle of the scenes from being oblivious to the spy to being fully aware of it. The perception follows Hamlet entering the conversation in a hopeful mindset, preparing to have legitimate and honest conversations. In the middle of the conversation with Ophelia, Hamlet abruptly changes in his tone, attitude, and becomes more selective with his words, not only accusing Ophelia of being a whore and a terrible person, but following up on remarks multiple times. That perception of Hamlet and the scene itself seems to be the most representative of the kind of character that Hamlet is in the play. 3 exceptional different interpretations of an incredible scene in the play Hamlet. And for the last final question, what would you say are Hamlet's defining traits? Defining traits? My, what a question indeed. Hamlet was, of course, the central protagonist of the play. Being so, he has to have an immense amount of details and elements to his character. He's indecisive in his decision-making, angry, grieving, and revenge-filled following his father's death. And up until the end, he is hesitant to follow through with his plans as he constantly is questioning if it can be executed flawlessly or not. Despite most of the time following through, the repercussions of each circumstance and situation he finds himself in tests Hamlet to a point where it finally accepts life for what it truly is: unpredictable. Embracing that, he heads into the fight with Laertes with no plan, as he says, "Since no man of aught he leaves no, what is it to leave betimes? Let be."
Mr. Shakespeare, I loved hearing what you had to say. William, if I may, thank you for being our most esteemed guest on the show thus far. And to you, viewers, thanks for tuning in to yet another episode of The Late Show with me, Leonardo Foxx. Until next time.